Hi there, this is Aude. Talking about your daily routine in French is a bit complex because of reflexive verbs. In this video, you're going to learn everything in a real life conversation. Let's get started. You can easily recognize reflexive verbs in French because in the infinitive, they all start with se or s apostrophe. And remember, most of reflexive verbs are ER verbs. If you want to know more about those verbs, let's have a look at that video. In this first part, we're going to have a look at how to use reflexive verbs in French. We're going to concentrate on je, I, and tu, you. Tu te réveilles tôt? Tu te réveilles tôt? Oui, je me réveille tôt. Non, je me réveille tard. Tu te couches tôt? Oui, je me couche tôt. Non, je me couche tard. The first question means, do you wake up early? So you guess that tôt is early. If you have a look at my negative sentence here, tard, obviously the opposite, late. Early, tôt, tard, late. So when you've got a reflexive verb in French, you need to introduce a reflexive pronoun in between the subject pronoun and the verb. You need te for the pronoun you, and you need me for the pronoun I. Remember that practice is key, so let's have a go together. Tu te réveilles tôt? Tu te couches tôt? Your turn to ask me the question. Oui, je me réveille tôt. Now let's have a look at some more pronouns and also how to use the infinitive with reflexive verbs. Est-ce que tu préfères te doucher le matin ou le soir? Est-ce que tu préfères te doucher le matin ou le soir? Je préfère me doucher le matin, mais mon mari préfère se doucher le soir. Mes enfants préfèrent se doucher le soir. Let's have a look at the question. Do you prefer to shower in the morning or in the evening? You can notice that you don't need to use est-ce que. Est-ce que would be more a formal question. Starting with tu préfères would be an informal question. So remember that after the opinion verbs like préférer, aimer, détester, you're using an infinitive. But here, the infinitive is a reflexive verb. It means that you need to use those reflexive pronouns. In those sentences, you can notice new pronoun. We're going to use se in front of a verb when we're talking about he or she doing the action. We're also going to use se when talking about they doing the action. Time to practice. Est-ce que tu préfères te doucher le matin ou le soir? Your turn. Je préfère me doucher le matin. The problem with reflexive verbs is that we've got some verbs starting with a vowel or a silent H. And here, the pronouns, the reflexive pronouns, are going to change. À quelle heure tu t'habilles? À quelle heure tu t'habilles? Je m'habille à 7h30. À quelle heure tu t'endors? À quelle heure tu t'endors? Je m'endors vers 22h30, mais mon conjoint s'endort plus tard. Here, because we've got some verbs starting with a vowel or a silent H, the reflexive pronouns are going to change. You can notice that it's much easier for pronunciation to use T apostrophe, M apostrophe, or S apostrophe instead of me, te, se. S'habiller is the verb to get dressed, and s'endormir is the verb to fall asleep. Be careful with that last one. It's a verb that is not an ER verb but an IR verb, so the conjugation is a bit different. If you need to practice a bit more about the time, let's have a look at that video I've made. Let's practice now. À quelle heure tu t'habilles? À quelle heure tu t'endors? Your turn to ask the question. Je m'habille à 7h30. Now, let's have a look at how to use negatives with reflexive verbs. Tu te maquilles? Tu te maquilles? Non, je ne me maquille pas. Tu te rases? Tu te rases? Non, je ne me rase pas. First, let's have a look at the meaning of those two reflexive verbs. Se maquiller is to make up. Se raser is to shave. Remember that when you're making a French sentence into negative, you need two parts, ne and pas. But in here, the problem is that they are not going to be placed exactly the same as usual. Most of the time, you've got ne pas around the verb. But here, we've got a reflexive pronoun in the middle. So you need to put the ne before the reflexive pronoun, and the pas will be after the verb. Non, je ne me maquille pas. Time to practice, guys. Don't worry, it's very difficult to pronounce. Take your time. Tu te maquilles? Tu te rases? Your turn. Non, je ne me maquille pas. In the comments below, please tell me about your routine, and maybe one day I'll tell you about mine. À bientôt! Ok, tout le blabla.